My name is Albert Morris, Morris.
Okay. And when were you born?
Well, I was born July 1921.
1921.
1921, sir. Yes, sir.
What was it like in New York in 1921? Because you were born in New York, right?
Right. Well, when you look at some of these buildings, even though they, at present time they're upgraded, made it look modern, they were typical tenements at that time. There was the beginning of a building mode to deal with the apartments that some of us got to know, which in time became somewhat old and had to be renovated. Some had to be torn down.
What was your earliest memory of the conditions that you would say most black people were experiencing in that time period, the 20s, 30s?
Well, during the time of the 20s, let's say I'm born, the time period is like from 1917 to 1923. This is for Social Security purposes. You see what I mean? In which it was something called a notch, capital N-O-T-C-H, time. Very interesting. There was a great in-migration of African people from all over, as you know. Naturally within the United States, making a movement away from the hell that they were catching down south and coming up south. You get what I mean? So what happened with that great situation, you find that there was a lot of pressure on our people. And the people who were in power realized that when Social Security it was voted on a national issue in 1935, 1936, they manipulated things in such a way that certain people between the period of, say, 1917 to 1923 received less Social Security, all right? Number one. Number two, majority of our people were agricultural workers at that time. And also many of our folks were doing domestic work. So the agricultural workers and the domestic workers, they weren't covered. You know what I mean? So the notch period is a very important thing in which...
What time was that period?
Roughly from 1917 to 1923. With the notch, N-O-T-C-H. Yeah, and they gave you less money. You follow what I mean?
I got you.
Now, with the dominant group in power, quite a few people were agricultural workers. And some people were domestic workers. Like
They were not affected in the same way.
That were not affected in the same way. There's always underhanded way in which they can be covered. Our folks, well, we had to bring it from the line. You follow what I mean? And it was only in it was roughly about 1960s, about 67, 68, in which many people were working for, in this case, civil service, particularly in New York City, New York State.
Let's talk a little bit about
Surely.
your experience, like your brothers, sisters, your mother,
Right.
your father. What was that like? And what part of New York did you live in?
All right, I lived in New York City, Manhattan, or New York County as they called it at that time. Now, as I say, the people, my father, my mother, were working people, you see, distinct type. And there was a shift. Now you gotta remember we have an immigration situation which we're facing at present. And as Alton Maddox stated, you heard of Attorney at War, he says immigration has always been on the shoulders of the enslaved African people's hair. Always been there. So this phase that we're going through is a very, not only a dangerous phase, but a very tricky phase.
What kind of work did your mother do?
My mother was a domestic.
Okay, what did your father do?
My father was a seaman.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
All right. I had, I think I was the only male born. And I had 3 sisters. Yeah.
Okay, 3
Right.
younger sisters.
They're younger sisters, right.
Now, let's talk about your education, like with elementary school. Let's start with.
Well, you know, interesting enough,
Okay.
my father was a superintendent of 2 24-family houses in Lower Manhattan around 20th Street. That's in the Gramercy area. Yeah, Gramercy in French means to have mercy. Gramercy. So we say in the modern day, mercy. But anyway, at that time, it was a public school 50.
Does it still exist today?
To my knowledge, no. It's a police academy there. Follow what I mean? Now, up in the Bronx, which is the borough of the Bronx, around Sheridan Avenue and Morrison Avenue, and it's near what you call again Cardinal Hayes High School. They're trying to develop a police academy there. But the police academy, as I can remember, which was public school 50, is at 20th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues.
And that's where you went to elementary school?
That's where I went to elementary school.
What was the population like? Mostly blacks or mixed?
Well, largely white.
Largely white.
And in many instances, it was the immigration. You know, we had 1890 was the beginning of a certain immigration. And at that time, they never spoke about a man by the name of, what is his name again? Not De Lesseps. He's the one that built was the engineer for the Suez Canal. He was a French diplomat who spoke to Abraham Lincoln and stated that there should be a statute dealing with the slavery conditions of the enslaved African people. As a result, the original sculpture of the Statue of Liberty was that of a black woman. Okay? And what you could do, if you go to the New York City Historical Society on 103rd Street, 104th Street, you go up and you'll see the picture, the original Statue of Liberty of this black woman.
And so the original Statue of Liberty was a black
Was a black woman.
And you can see this picture where?
Go to the New York City Historical Society. It's 103rd or 104th Street on 5th Avenue. Now, during Giuliani's time, Giuliani's a very hateful type of mayor, he moved that New York City Historical Society from there down to 5th Avenue, lower 5th Avenue. But it was moved back to the original place.